Good morning, and we are at the beginning of our first full week back after Christmas. So I think the kids are all back to school and it's back into a normal routine. But the question I have today is, how are you planning for the year ahead? Last week I was talking to you about goal setting and potentially about how goal setting and setting intentions go hand in hand rather than them being entirely separate things, and there being comments made about the fact that you set intentions instead of goals, right? Now, I talked with you about the fact that you need to have an action plan. If you set a goal, you set intentions as to how you're actually going to reach that goal, and you have a action plan, right? There are other important aspects when you're looking at planning for the year ahead. And one of the things that I am seeing with businesses at this moment in time is it's about cost cutting. Now, January is an expensive, well, it's a tough time rather than necessarily expensive time as such, because, and the reason why it's a tough time is, for example, for the people who are employed, usually get paid just before Christmas, and it's a long old time between being paid December's payday and the end of January when you get back to your normal payday. But for self-employed, for example, or people who earn income from rentals or wherever, where there is an additional income, your self-assessment is due at the end of January. If your financial year for a business runs until the end of March, then usually your corporation tax was payable at the end of December. So it's quite, and to be honest, a lot of businesses do run their financial year alongside effectively the tax year. So this time of year, it can be an incredibly expensive time. You add in the current circumstances within the economic climate, where things like the cost of materials, the cost of fuel, just generally the cost of living has risen exponentially. So businesses are looking at where they can cut costs. And one of the things that there's a couple of things that I'm seeing where people are cutting costs. One is in relation to staff or what they're doing. And I have had, and I'm sure he won't mind me sharing this with you. I had a conversation with a friend who works for a business, and he'd recently asked for a pay rise. And the employer's response to him was, well, the national minimum wage goes up in March, so you can wait until then. Well, with the greatest of respect to his employer, my professional opinion, he's not valuing that member of staff. And as Richard Branson says, and I was having this conversation with one of my clients recently, who is a HR consultant, is ultimately, if you look after your staff will look after your customers. And without staff, you don't have a business. So to me, the attitude when that person had gone to ask for a pay rise, to me, that actually is incredibly short-sighted on that employer's mind. I know he's a grafter. He more than earns his money, and I think it's really sad to hear that businesses are still not valuing their staff. But then you also have, on the other side of the spectrum, where I've been having a conversation where, I've had a number of conversations recently where staff aren't pulling their weight. And when they're not pulling their weight, that also has a massive knock-on effect in relation to the business. And in that instance, you ultimately, as a business, you're not a charity, right? So it is very much a balancing act between looking after the staff that are helping you grow your business, who look after your customers, who are working hard, who understand the vision and the culture of the business and are really an integral part of the business, compared to the members of staff who perhaps aren't pulling their weight, who perhaps aren't working as hard or don't buy into the vision or have the wrong attitude or whatever the circumstances are. Now, I've seen it where, because of the way that the economic climate is, I've seen it where business owners are then scared to actually then change the staff or, potentially cut staff down because they don't want to upset their employees. And there's got to be that fine balance. And the one thing I would say is, and this is a bit of a shout out actually for one of my clients, because the one thing I would say is, from my experience as being an employer of staff when I had the law firm, and from being an employment lawyer, is making sure that you have the correct systems and processes in place in relation to dealing with your staff, right? Because one of the things that I see with businesses is part of the reason why they're afraid to get rid of a member of staff is that they're afraid potentially of an employment tribunal claim, or they don't want the hassle, or they don't understand the actual the process. So they just basically let it be and ignore it and think that the problem will go away. And this is where my shout out goes to Louise Loon of HR for All. She's recently just branded from HR for You to HR for All. Now, she is a fantastic HR consultant. So if anything, in terms of having a conversation with her, if you've got any concerns regarding any of your employees and you're not sure how to either manage them so that you get more out of them, or whether it's a case if you've got problematic employees or employee that you need to deal with, she is the person to have a conversation with. And at the end of this, I will tag her in so that if you want to have a conversation with her, please do. I know she offers a free 30-minute consultation, so make the most of it, right? So going back to, in terms of the cost cutting, so one cost cutting exercise could be in terms of getting rid or, terminating employees that unfortunately are not pulling their weight within the business. And obviously, there is a key process that you need to follow, and there is a process in terms of being able to give them an opportunity to improve. But putting the employees to one side, one of the things that I am seeing time and time again that businesses are cutting costs on, and it is anything to do with business growth, such as marketing or business coaching, right? And I can understand why, because sometimes the business coach, for example, can be one of the more expensive, like your staff, could be one of your more expensive bills, or your marketing budget. You're looking at your marketing budget and you're thinking, okay, actually, I'm going to slash this. That is incredibly short-sighted. And the reason why it's incredibly short-sighted, and I see this time and time again, where what businesses will do is they'll do a massive marketing push, get a load of work in the door, stop marketing. And then the work dries up, they do a massive marketing push, right? And if they've got enough work drip fed in at the moment, then what businesses are doing is they're cutting their marketing budget. Now, that is a bad way to run your marketing. Your marketing should be consistent, and it should not stop depending on how busy that you are, right? Now, if there are certain marketing activities that you're doing that aren't working or perhaps need adjustment, say, for example, you could be running Facebook ads and you're not actually getting any conversions from those ads. Now, it might be a case if you don't necessarily cut ads altogether, but what you do is you look at, okay, why are the ads not converting? Do we need to adjust the copy, right? Usually, and this is a Russell Brunson thing, usually if any kind of marketing is not working, it's usually as a result of either the hook story or the offer is not working. So look at what you're actually putting in your copy in terms of your hook, your story, and your offer. And I bet you make those adjustments, it will change. But also have a look now, for example, There are still some businesses that do the old school marketing, which could be your leaflet drop, your adverts in your newspapers, which can be quite an expensive way to market, especially when you can do a lot on social media now. Now, are you actually getting inquiries from those methods of marketing? And if you are getting those inquiries, are they converting, and are they actually then worth you continuing to those particular activities? Now, I completely understand when you cut costs and you're looking at things, you cut things that aren't working, but don't just slash your marketing budget as a global thing without looking at the numbers to see what's working, what's not. And as I said, when you are marketing, your marketing should be consistent regardless of how busy that you are. And I do get it, when you're a smaller business, there's only so many hours in a day and you are often juggling. But a lot of these marketing activities can actually be automated, and you can potentially utilize your existing staff to help you with the implementation of it. Time should never be an excuse as to why you're not marketing. The other key thing in terms of marketing that I see and I hear a lot, particularly within the trades and construction, they turn around and say, oh, I don't need to do marketing, I get recommendations or referrals. And I was like, that's fantastic, because actually, getting business through word of mouth is one of the best ways in which you can get new business. But don't rely on it, because there could be, for example, you might have 2 or 3 key referrers. What happens if one of those businesses goes under as a result of the economic climate? You've lost an immediate referral resource, right? So what you do instead is you have multiple avenues in which you have inquiries coming through, whether it is referrals, whether it's social media, whether it's landing pages or what, funnels effectively. However you do it, you need to make sure that you have multiple avenues, right? Now, one of the key things that I talk about within the Business Fixer Toolkit, and that is the framework in which I coach all of my clients, whether you're a one-to-one client, whether you're on the mastermind, whether you're on the online course. It's based around at different levels of the Business Fixer Toolkit. And marketing and financials are just two of the key stages within the Business Fixer Toolkit. Now, I am running a webinar on Thursday, which will talk more about the Business Fixer Toolkit and how you can, as a business, as a business owner, you can ultimately still have the freedom to live the life that you want in any given economic climate. Because all of these key principles that I teach within the Business Fixer Toolkit, doesn't matter what economy you're in, they will work. There might be some adjustments that you need to make when the economy changes, but ultimately, if you implement these strategies, you will thrive within whatever economic climate that we face. So if you want to get yourself booked in on the webinar, I will also pop a link in the comments. So make sure that you get yourself booked in. I hope that today you've kind of got some key tips. Tomorrow, I will talk a bit more about what other things that you can look at in terms of how you plan for the year ahead and potentially other cost-saving exercises. But the one thing I would say is don't slash your marketing budget completely. Only cut the aspects of your marketing that aren't working, because ultimately marketing is one of the ways in which you generate money, and that should always remain in place. So like I said, make sure that you click the link to book in for the webinar on Thursday. In the meantime, I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will see you back on here at some point tomorrow. Take care. Have a great day, everyone.